Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Javier here with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel, a platform, and a modality where we apply the principles of interiorism to rapid lifestyle transformation. Guys, I'm just here tonight with this brief video just asking you to do yourself a favor and get into that neutral more often. You see, oftentimes we live on a non-stop roller coaster, and we go from peak to valley, then try to go back to the peak and the valley, and what that does is it ends up getting us stuck in what Abraham Hicks calls a little rut, and it makes us become more conditional. And of course, different modalities have different ways of expressing these truths. But as Joe Dispenza said, science is the language of many modern people. So therefore, we're at least going to try to integrate some of the principles of science in these videos so that we can more easily explain this to professionals and other younger people who might be interested in these modalities but might not yet have the vocabulary necessary to understand metaphysical concepts. So the spiritual chemical, and ladies and gentlemen, the next video is going to be a very in-depth video on this. The spiritual chemical, which basically symbolizes this and is the prototype of this, and what science is discovering more and more. There are very recent discoveries about this chemical. One study done in 2020, and now scientifically we know something about this neurotransmitter that we did not know before. And that is, ladies and gentlemen, a molecule. I probably said chemical, but molecule, dopamine. And again, we're not going to talk about many of the scientific aspects of this today, because the next video is going to be very in-depth on that, and it's very exciting. It's going to be based upon an interview with the great neuroscientist Andrew Huberman. And I've spoken a lot before about Huberman Labs and how I love watching his channel, because he basically puts a firm scientific foundation under many of the principles that we discuss here on this channel on interiorism. Just know that dopamine is this spiritual neurotransmitter, in that it sort of forms a meeting place or a synthesis between the spiritual and the physical. A lot more on that later. But just in simple terms and in law of assumption, law of attraction terms, I wanted to discuss this aspect of the fact that we become dopamine addicts and we become addicted to the emotional disturbance, as if you will. And what that does is, on a spiritual level, and according to the law of attraction, it just builds up more of that path of either we have to be euphoric, and of course that leads to its opposite. We have to be in despair or in fear. And there's another way of living, and of course Abraham Hicks points this out many times. The Stoics and the ancient philosophers knew this. You see, the Stoics said that the ideal emotion or state to aim for was not euphoria and excitement. Of course, those are beautiful emotions, and they're fun. And tomorrow we're going to, or in the next video, probably tomorrow or Monday, we're going to be discussing how actually to modulate this to where we can actually bring the excitement and the euphoric emotions into the process as opposed to the end. But more on that later. The Stoics talked about the ideal emotion was called apatheia, which was apathos, which was basically on the Abraham Hicks emotional scale, contentment. It's also why Abraham Hicks talks a lot about satisfaction. Because when you're euphoric, that's a beautiful emotion, but when you try to stay there, that's when the issue erupts. And when you can't get there, based upon outer conditions, you go to its opposite. And of course, once you get to despair, you also go back to its opposite of euphoria. It's like the philosophers of the Middle Ages discussed when they talked about the wheel of fortune. Of course, there's a hub in the center of that wheel, and they said that's where you're trying to get to the hub. And then you could observe all of the movements of the outward world from that hub. The main concept here is that we control our own emotional state, and we can modulate ourselves to where we can get to a state of neutral. And then, of course, as Abraham Hicks talks about, and as science discusses, and again we'll discuss this more in the next video, from neutral, everything grows out, and everything will come to you easily and effortlessly, including the higher emotions like excitement, euphoria, and of course joy. And joy is in a category separate, of course. Those will come from neutral, but first you have to get to neutral. That's why all of the spiritual teachers talk about going within, being present, getting to neutral. And the quickest way I know to get to neutral is to simply be in the present moment. So let's get to neutral right now, and we encourage you to do this many times a day. I just want to give you a sort of reminder and sort of a platform to be able to get neutral. Just become aware of your breathing, that you are breathing. You don't have to change or modulate it in any way. Just become aware that you are breathing. Now what I want you to do is just imagine that every feeling center of your body, every cell of your body, were just completely open and receptive and flowering. And I want you, for example, with your vision, I want you to see everything, including the periphery. I want you to smell whatever smells are there, feel whatever feeling throughout your body, everywhere, with no center. Your whole body is just open and flowering and taking in all of the feelings, all of the sensations. Your auditory system is taking in all of the sounds. Even bodily sensations that you would interpret as emotions, like sometimes someone might have fast heartbeat or anxiety or tightness in the chest or the neck. Feel those fully as well and just count them as part of all of the other sensations. Don't judge them or interpret them. Just observe them. You'll notice as you do this that your breath just naturally gets deeper. The chemicals of neutrality are just being released in your body right now. That's it. And for many of you, you will be feeling that feeling of what it feels like to be in complete neutrality. And whenever you start becoming dependent upon something on the outer, not as a placebo or a placeholder, but as an end in itself, just remember to go back to that neutrality. And realize that it's all inner. That's what interiorism is all about, to have complete control over your thought of the fact that anything outside of you could influence an interior state, but rather knowing that it's only interior states that can influence anything, because all is interior. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Do it many times throughout the day. Just get presence, drop in, and go into that neutrality. We're going to be, again, establishing the scientific bases of this, as well as giving you tools, processes, and techniques in order to get into that state, so that then you can prove to yourself that these modalities are effective. But again, first, you have to get into the state of actually being that modality, being the person that you want to be. And it all starts on the interior. That's why we call this interiorism. So ladies and gentlemen, remember, just get neutral, get present, and then you can go into appreciation and gratitude, which depends upon nothing on the outer. So therefore, you're not addicted to something on the exterior to give you these emotions or feelings, or as science says, to give you a boast of dopamine. We're going to be discussing that a lot more. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. If you appreciate our videos, please subscribe, hit the subscribe button below. You'll not only be putting your energy in with a group of master manifestors, you'll also be helping me get the word out, as well as the fact that I am doing coaching calls. I'll put my email in the description. Email me there. We'll go through all of these modalities hand in hand. I'll bring to bear my years of experience in business and consulting to help you get off the prison grid and build a masterpiece. Rapid lifestyle transformation, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't have to take a long time. So until very soon, this is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa bidding you a very good weekend.